The email came with a gold-trimmed seal and a name typed in all caps, Hillary Rodham Clinton. Most would have seen it as a privilege. Karoline Leavitt saw it as a setup. The subject line read, "Forum on the Future of Democratic Leadership. Location, Georgetown University. Date, Saturday, 7 p.m. Panelists, Hillary Clinton, Karoline Leavitt, Donna Brazile, and Ana Navarro." Karoline leaned back in her chair, rereading the message. "They really think I'm going to walk into that lion's den unarmed," she said under her breath. Her staff exchanged nervous glances. The invitation came from Clinton's foundation, but the optics were obvious. They were placing Karoline, a rising America First firebrand, on stage with 3 legacy liberal women to publicly corner her. The topic of the panel was generational responsibility. Translation? "Sit down, little girl." But Karoline didn't sit down. She stood. And she showed up. Dressed in a crisp white blazer, her cross necklace glinting under the studio lights, she walked onto the Georgetown auditorium stage as cameras flashed and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Hillary was already seated, legs crossed, notebook in lap, a faint smirk tugging at the corners of her mouth. The moderator introduced Hillary with the kind of reverence reserved for royalty. "Madam Secretary Clinton, thank you for your decades of leadership." Then Karoline. A pause. "Anne. Ms. Leavitt. You're one of the younger voices on this stage. Many in your generation are still figuring out who they want to be. What brings you here tonight?" Karoline's reply cut through the air like a knife. "I came because this nation isn't a retirement project for failed politicians. It's a future we have to fight for." Gasps echoed. Hillary tilted her head, the smirk hardening. Donna Brazile scribbled something. Ana Navarro whispered, "Well, she came swinging." But Karoline didn't stop there. She turned slightly toward Hillary and said, "With all due respect, Secretary Clinton, you've had 40 years. If you had fixed the system, I wouldn't be on this stage." The audience went silent. Hillary's lips pursed. Georgetown's historic panel was no longer a discussion. It was a reckoning. And Karoline had just fired the first shot. The auditorium lights dimmed slightly as the moderator tried to bring the room back under control. But it was too late. Karoline's words had already shattered the polite theater of the evening. Hillary's smirk faltered, just for a second, but that second was enough. "Ms. Leavitt," Hillary began slowly, her voice laced with faux calm, "I understand you're new to this. It takes time to appreciate that leadership requires more than slogans and soundbites." Karoline didn't flinch. "Slogans like, 'I'm with her,' while whole cities collapsed under your watch?" Karoline shot back. "Forgive me, but I've seen firsthand what that kind of leadership leaves behind." The crowd stirred. A few gasps. A low whistle from the back row. Donna Brazile leaned forward. "Ladies, let's remember this is a dialogue, not a debate." But Hillary couldn't help herself. She turned, fully facing Karoline now. "You're standing here today because of the doors people like me kicked open. You're not the rebellion. You're the result." That line had clearly been rehearsed. The crowd responded with polite applause, but Karoline didn't even blink. She stepped toward the edge of the stage, not toward Hillary, but toward the crowd. "Then why do you keep slamming those same doors shut on anyone who disagrees with you? If I'm the result, then maybe it's time to admit the formula failed." The air tightened. Even Ana Navarro sat back. "You say you broke ceilings, Secretary Clinton. But all I see are broken promises, broken institutions, and broken people. Maybe the ceiling cracked, but the foundation's crumbling. And you're still holding the blueprint. That's when it happened." Hillary's composure faltered, just barely, but her eyes narrowed. The cameras caught it, a split-second scowl. No smile, no deflection. Karoline turned back toward the moderator. "I didn't come here to be lectured by the people who lost this country's trust. I came here to remind them, we're not waiting for their permission anymore." The moderator cleared her throat. "Let's keep this respectful," she said nervously, eyes darting between the two women. But the crowd had already shifted. The decorum was gone. What remained was raw tension, and truth. Hillary leaned forward with a practiced smile, but her voice had lost its charm. "You think passion replaces experience? You think noise is leadership?" she asked Karoline, her tone low but sharp. "I've been in every room that matters." Karoline didn't blink. "And look at the shape this country's in. Those rooms you brag about are the same rooms where our futures were sold off like favors." A burst of claps came from the right side of the room. "You passed off your failures as glass ceilings," Karoline continued. "But for millions of Americans, it wasn't glass. It was concrete. And your generation poured it." Hillary's face froze. For years she'd owned the stage, owned the narrative. But now, standing across from a millennial who had nothing to lose and everything to fight for, she realized something unsettling. She wasn't feared anymore. Karoline stepped forward, not to intimidate, but to connect. "You want me to wait my turn," she said, "but I'm here because your turn left us behind. We don't need more lectures. We need accountability." Hillary glanced at the camera, then back at Karoline. "You have no idea what it takes to lead." Karoline replied without missing a beat. "And you have no idea how many of us are ready to lead differently." The silence in the room was deafening. For the first time, Hillary didn't have a comeback. The tension didn't ease after the cameras cut to commercial. In fact, the room only grew hotter. The green room hallway buzzed with murmurs, campaign aides whispering, journalists furiously texting headlines. The studio had become a pressure cooker of generational warfare. Hillary stood still, arms crossed. She'd faced Republicans, despots, and scandal. But this felt different. Karoline wasn't trying to be her. She was trying to replace her. As the stage lights reset and the moderator motioned to resume, Hillary tried to regain control. "I didn't spend 4 decades fighting for women's rights just to be smeared by someone riding the coattails of outrage," she snapped. Karoline slowly turned toward her, this time not with a smirk, but with steel in her voice. "You fought for power. And now you're clinging to it while pretending it's progress." A hush fell. "I'm not your enemy, Hillary. I'm your consequence." The audience gasped. "You built your brand on breaking barriers," Karoline said. "But when you got through, you built a gate." Hillary's smile had evaporated. "You say I'm riding coattails, then tell me, who held the microphone for you for 30 years? Who cleaned up your policies? Who buried the costs of your compromises?" The moderator attempted to interject. "Ladies, we need to." But Hillary had heard enough. "You think sound bites and sass qualify you to lead? You'll fold the first time real power pushes back." Karoline took one step forward and raised her voice, not with anger, but conviction. "Then push me. Because unlike you, I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to tell the truth." The room froze. No teleprompter. No script. No donor-approved applause lines. Just 2 women. One guarding a legacy. One demanding a reckoning. And only one of them looked ready for the future. The clip went viral before either woman left the stage. Within minutes, Karoline's words, "I'm not your enemy. I'm your consequence," were everywhere. Pinned to tweets, spliced into TikToks, and headlined on conservative media like it was a declaration of generational war. But it wasn't just the right that was buzzing. CNN panels called it the torch officially passing, while MSNBC tried to spin it as an unfortunate moment of intergenerational miscommunication. Clinton's aides scrambled. They called it disrespectful, juvenile, and dangerous. Karoline? She walked out of the studio into a sea of microphones and flashing lights, chin up and voice clear. She wanted to talk legacy, Karoline said. "I wanted to talk results. Americans are tired of speeches that go nowhere and deals that sell us out. Hillary's era is over. Ours just began." That line made it to every late-night monologue, and not all with praise. Trevor Noah mocked it. She said era, but spelled it EGO. Karoline didn't flinch. Because at that very moment, the campaign donations started pouring in. Small dollar donations. Patriots, moms, college kids, disaffected independents, all sending $5 with messages like, "You said what we've been screaming at the TV for years." She stood there and told Hillary to her face, finally, "No more dynasties. We want truth." Meanwhile, Hillary's team held emergency calls with DNC insiders. The backlash was worse than expected. Even longtime supporters whispered what no one had dared say for years, "Maybe she's the past." Karoline knew this wasn't just a headline, it was a fracture. The Clinton machine had been untouchable for decades. But all it took was one woman, standing uninvited at the same podium, refusing to bow. And that moment was now bigger than both of them. Back in D.C., the Clinton camp wasn't just angry, they were panicked. Phone calls bounced between foundation boardrooms, DNC strategists, and blue-check operatives in the media. The marching orders were clear: discredit Karoline before this escalates further. "She's dangerous," one advisor said in a leaked call. "Not because she's extreme, because she sounds reasonable." Behind the curtain, Hillary didn't just want revenge. She wanted the narrative back. Meanwhile, Karoline was in New Hampshire, holding an impromptu town hall in a packed community center. No teleprompters. No handlers. Just her, a microphone, and a flag draped behind her. "I wasn't sent here to kiss rings," she told the crowd. "I'm here to break the circles of power that keep failing you." An older woman stood up and asked the question echoing across America. "Karoline, how did you keep your composure in front of her?" Karoline smiled. "Because I wasn't looking at a queen, I was looking at someone who forgot what service looks like." The room erupted. It wasn't just a viral moment, it was a signal. That humility, resolve, and authenticity could still win. That someone could challenge power without needing to wear it like armor. But the storm was coming. A Clinton-aligned PAC quietly released attack ads targeting Karoline's past, her faith, even her family. Local news anchors began parroting lines like "unqualified firebrand" and "dangerous populist." Karoline didn't blink. At her next stop, she held up a printed copy of the first smear article, ripped it clean in half, and dropped it in the trash. "This," she said, "isn't journalism. It's the death rattle of a system terrified of truth." The crowd didn't cheer, they stood. Because something was happening. Karoline wasn't just surviving the Clinton machine, she was dismantling it. And the establishment, from both parties, had no idea what to do with her. The next morning, Karoline's name was everywhere. Not in glowing profiles, but in hit pieces. A DC blog posted a leaked memo accusing her of disinformation, conveniently timed to match the Clinton PAC ad drops. CNN ran a panel titled, "Is Karoline Leavitt a Danger to Democracy?" and MSNBC rolled out a cheerin that read, "MAGA Barbie turns on her country." They were throwing everything. Karoline didn't flinch. She sat on her front porch with her team, no war room, no lobbyists, just advisors she trusted, and laid out the plan. "Let them scream. I'll show up where it counts. People want clarity, not theatrics." Meanwhile, Hillary Clinton was spotted at a closed-door Manhattan fundraiser, telling wealthy donors, "She won't last a year. America's not stupid enough to fall for someone like that." But that night, Karoline stood before over 3,000 people in Ohio. A former manufacturing town where jobs had been gutted and promises sold for votes. She took the mic and didn't start with politics. She started with truth. "You know what I realized," she said. "The media wants you to think you're crazy. They want you to doubt your gut, your values, your memories. Why? Because if you believe in your voice again, their grip loosens." One man shouted from the back. "They're afraid of you." Karoline pointed right at him. "No, they're afraid of you. I'm just not afraid to stand with you." Thunderous applause. Tears. Cheers. People who hadn't clapped in years, stood. Because Karoline wasn't just campaigning, she was exposing the game. Later that night, a reporter tried to corner her. "Hillary Clinton says you're fueling division. How do you respond?" Karoline didn't blink. "Division already existed. I just refuse to pretend it didn't. And maybe if Hillary had listened instead of ruled, we wouldn't be in this mess." It went viral in hours. And across both parties, you could feel the tremor. Karoline wasn't just rising, she was rewriting the playbook. The next morning, headlines tried to shift the tide. Clinton endorses unity while Leavitt stokes division. Hillary says Leavitt too young to lead. Karoline's populism is dangerous, experts say. But on the ground, none of it stuck. Karoline wasn't running a Twitter campaign. She was in Iowa barns, Pennsylvania diners, and Arizona truck stops, shaking hands, asking questions, and listening. Really listening. Not polling. Meanwhile, Hillary's team launched a coordinated media barrage. Super PACs flooded the airwaves with soft focus ads showing Clinton meeting with smiling children, teachers, and union reps. The message? Experience matters. But in a country still reeling from lockdowns, inflation, and open border chaos, that message felt like a broken record. Karoline didn't retaliate with polished commercials. She posted a grainy video of herself walking through an abandoned textile factory in upstate New York. The ceiling was leaking. The floors covered in dust. Machines frozen in rusted silence. She looked into the camera and said, "Hillary Clinton told you she'd rebuild this. She didn't. I'm not here to pretend this isn't broken, I'm here to say we start here. With what you lost, not what they imagine." That clip hit 11 million views in 24 hours. That same week, Hillary held a $50,000 a plate fundraiser in Beverly Hills. The same night, Karoline was in a folding chair at a veterans hall in Ohio, listening to a former Marine who'd lost his home after being denied VA care. The contrast was jarring, and the Clinton machine knew it. Backroom consultants began whispering. "She's pulling voters we thought were locked in. The media narrative isn't holding. She's cutting across class lines." Then Hillary tried to pivot. In a sit-down with MSNBC, she painted herself as a mentor, saying, "I don't dislike Miss Leavitt. I just believe she's not ready. She's not tempered by responsibility." That kind of energy can be dangerous in diplomacy. Karoline didn't even wait for the clip to finish before firing back live on a podcast. "Hillary Clinton thinks responsibility is selling speeches while Americans lose jobs. If she thinks my honesty is dangerous, she hasn't been paying attention to what her silence already caused." The podcast trended instantly. Even some legacy reporters had to admit, Karoline had tapped into something deeper. Not party lines. Not policy nuance. But a raw, visceral disconnect between the ruling elite and real people. And unlike others, Karoline wasn't backing down. When whispers of a potential televised debate between Karoline Leavitt and Hillary Clinton hit the airwaves, the country held its breath. Clinton's team leaked that she was open to the idea, if decorum could be maintained. Mainstream anchors latched on, promoting it as a generational reckoning and return to civility. But Karoline wasn't playing for civility points. She issued a simple challenge on air. "Hillary, if you're so confident in your record, meet me on stage. No handlers. No teleprompters. Just the truth. Let the people decide whose leadership they trust." The challenge exploded online. Hashtags like #Clinton vs. Karoline and #DebateThePeople began trending. Even independents began calling for the face-off. For 4 days, Clinton's team stalled. Then MSNBC's Rachel Maddow announced, Secretary Clinton has graciously declined, stating that she will not elevate division or risk platforming extremism. Karoline didn't flinch. She walked into a town hall in Charleston and opened with, "Hillary Clinton is afraid of the one thing she's never been able to control, a real, unfiltered conversation with Americans. If you can't face me, how can you claim to represent us?" The crowd roared. That night, her team uploaded a mock split-screen video, Karoline on one side, seated at a debate podium, with the other side left empty. Over it flashed. "We showed up." She didn't. Within hours, the clip broke 20 million views. Behind closed doors, Clinton's donors were rattled. Her advisors pushed to recenter the campaign around protecting democracy, but polling showed a growing shift, especially among younger women, working-class families, and independent voters in swing states. Then came the leak. An internal email surfaced, showing Clinton staffers discussing how to strategically smear Karoline as reckless and emotionally unstable without directly engaging her. The public backlash was immediate. The phrase, emotionally unstable, became a meme, one that Karoline took and ran with. She posted a short video sitting calmly in front of an American flag, smiling into the camera. "If calling out corruption is emotional, then yes, I'm emotional. And if standing up to elites is unstable, then let's shake the whole system." The next morning, even some liberal pundits were forced to acknowledge what had happened. Karoline didn't just outmaneuver Hillary. She exposed the emptiness behind the Clinton brand, the prescripted grace, the curated image, the promises that never quite delivered. And most importantly, she had made the people feel seen. The following week, Karoline received an unexpected invitation to speak at a bipartisan panel in Washington, D.C. The topic, Restoring Trust in American Institutions. Headlined by names from both parties, the press buzzed when Hillary Clinton's name appeared on the panel, seated 2 spots from Karoline. Whispers flew backstage. Would they speak? Would Clinton ignore her? Would Karoline go off script? The auditorium was packed. Cameras from every major network rolled. As each speaker took their turn, the mood was carefully choreographed, until Karoline stepped to the microphone. She adjusted the mic, looked straight into the crowd, then turned her head, locking eyes with Hillary. "We talk about restoring trust. But let's not pretend that trust was lost overnight. It was sold, piece by piece, by people who smiled on camera and lied behind closed doors." A murmur swept through the crowd. You can't demand trust from the American people while hiding behind foundations, backroom deals, and photo ops at globalist galas. Real trust is earned. And the people in this room, especially you, Karoline nodded subtly toward Hillary, have had decades to earn it. Hillary sat stiff, her fingers interlocked tightly. She didn't interrupt. "You told my generation to lean in," Karoline continued. "You told us politics was for us. But when we showed up, you slammed the doors. And when we knocked louder, you called us threats. Well, we're not going away. We're not asking for permission anymore." There was a pause. Heavy. Raw. Unscripted. Then, Karoline added the final blow, not shouted, not barked, but calm and cold. "Madam Secretary, you had your shot. You played the game. But the game's over. Now it's our turn, and we're not interested in your rules." The auditorium broke into fractured noise, applause from half, stunned silence from the rest. The panelists shifted awkwardly. Hillary didn't respond. She didn't look at Karoline. She simply leaned back in her chair, frozen in place. The moment made national headlines. Clips of Karoline's takedown dominated social media. Supporters branded it the real reset. Even some legacy anchors were forced to admit, Karoline Leavitt just changed the tone of American politics. That evening, Karoline posted just one sentence on her feed. "We're not here to inherit the system. We're here to rebuild it." And with that, Hillary Clinton, long the symbol of political permanence, had been publicly, undeniably, and decisively dethroned by a voice the establishment never saw coming. You don't get to rewrite history. And you definitely don't get to stop the future. I'm not here to play nice, I'm here to lead. And if that makes the old guard uncomfortable, good. Karoline turned from the podium without waiting for applause. She didn't need it. Because the truth had already hit the air, and the silence it left behind said more than any cheer ever could.